Hey everybody, welcome to another Probably Private. I'm Catherine Jarmel, and today we're going to talk about how do we actually parse and get information from complicated PDFs. Now, this problem has thwarted my life for years. So much, I think there's like a whole section of how to do this in the first O'Reilly book that I co-authored now a long time ago. I would not recommend using that book or reading that book. It's highly outdated from how we do data now, but I just kind of share that anecdote because parsing PDFs well and getting data out of PDFs to use for whatever it is you're doing, in this case, maybe local AI stuff, is a pain, but it's gotten a lot better. So what I'm going to show you today is I'm going to show you maybe a complicated PDF. It's a PDF that I'm going to use in one of my local projects. And we're going to talk about how do we actually get the information we need when the PDF is formatted really weird. Now, if you literally just have a PDF that just has text or has text and some tables, but you're mainly worried about the text, or text and some images, but you're mainly worried about the text, just use something simple and get the text out and move on with life. I wouldn't bother diving into complicated table logic if you don't have to, right? But if you, like me, you might have a PDF that has a table and you'd really like to get that table out, then it's going to take a little bit of caressing. So I have this document that's from the environmental people that are working at the city of Berlin. And I've been trying to build out some cool things on my balconies that support local plants and stuff like this. And I've been trying to keep an idea of what plants I need, right? Like what are good local Berlin plants? And Berlin put together this PDF, and they have the scientific name and the German name, and then they have different types of soil and consistency for different stuff. Now, it doesn't match exactly my ideal setup because I'm working with the balcony, right? But I thought it could be a starting point, right? I could at least get an idea of what ones from this list. And then there's a few local organizations. Maybe I can go talk with them, get other things to add to the list. And with all of that, I could maybe build a purchasing list that then goes and looks up things online and figures out, when should I plant it, where, and all of this stuff, right? So an idea for a project. And I was really annoyed because this is a very ugly table. Like, it's maybe great for reading. I mean, I'm not sure, but it's not great for parsing, okay? So that's where I'm starting with, and I'll share this notebook with you, so a link that you can use it yourself. But I'm using this library called Docling. They have a bunch of really easy functionality for how to get stuff out of documents and even how to prepare that directly for interfacing with LLMs. So check out their documentation, because depending on what you're trying to do with a PDF, they might already have a workflow. You can literally just start with that. And if you want a simpler library, use PyPDF. It's really lightweight, really simple. And if you know about Spacey, and if you maybe want to start actually orienting how different things are laid out, then Spacey layout is a great way to parse things and to do it using already NLP tools like the Spacey library. But I'm going to use Docling for my workflow today. I took this right from their documentation, so this is going to try to make using difficult tables easier. I'm going to convert it, right? And we can see that I've used all these pipeline options to try to do cell matching and to try to kind of use the most accurate model to pull things out. And in here, I have my PDF, and now I'm going to call in that document. And I'm literally just going to call in the page range that makes sense to me, because this is the only pages of the table, right? Again, if you're using the whole document, your results may vary. So if you want to parse a document that also has complex tables, you might want to write one part that pulls the stuff out of the tables, and then one part that pulls the text out of the document. And it's going to take a minute to run. Okay, now that it's done, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull out each table separately because what it's going to do is it's going to think every page is a new table. And what I'm going to have to do is try to merge those back together. So here I have it. I have 4 tables because I have my 4 pages. And I'm just going to do a sanity check. Do they have the same amount of columns? And we see here that they do not. So for some reason, my 3rd page got borked. So we're going to look here. Here's where I would normally do like a gut check. So I'd basically, this is the 3rd page, right? So I'd look at the 3rd page here, which I think is this one. I just want to double check, randomly check a few rows and make sure that it parsed properly, because even the best AI tools sometimes don't parse properly. And what I found when I did this check is that this one, the problematic one, for some reason split one of the columns. So I can do this by comparing the two, right? And looking through and then comparing them with my source of truth, so to speak, which is this. So I'm not going to bother showing you on this because you're probably working with your own PDFs and you don't need to look at mine. So I'm just going to pop out the broken data frame. I'm going to worry about that later and merge it in later, or maybe it's good enough without it and I can just move on. As you can see, the beauty of this weird layout of these table names means it's not at all readable in this format. So I just typed out the column names. I can assign it to the columns. Then I can merge them with Pandas concatenate, which basically is going to try to merge all of them. And then I can take a look at my merged data frame. Now, again, I'm missing a whole page of data, which is unfortunate, right? And again, you might want to get this exactly right and work out a workflow. If you're used to using AI code assistants to do this, you might have a code assistant solve it for you. Then you still want to check the work, right? You still want to make sure that the solution is actually valid and that the data actually got translated correctly. And once you've done that and you're happy, like for example, I think the closest match for what I'm trying to build on my balcony is the Frischwiesen, so the fresh meadows. And I'm going to take a look through and I'm just going to look through and pull out all the plants, for example, that might be a good match for my type of setup. And now I have this list. I can export it via Pandas to a database. I can export it to a CSV, an Excel, whatever it is, or I can use this code as part of a pipeline that I build later. But in this case, since I'm not going to be regularly updating the PDF, I think Berlin released the PDF 5 years ago. It doesn't seem to me like they're going to update this PDF every month and give me a new list. I would probably just save this data, but I wanted to show you in case there's PDFs where maybe you're using a PDF that you know is going to be released once a day, once a week. You can kind of build out this workflow, have all of this data preparation, pull the data you need, filter on the data you're going to use, and then that becomes the next step for whatever type of workflow you're building out. So I hope that you learned something about parsing PDFs. Again, there's not only this library, but many libraries. So just use one that makes sense for your use case. And I hope you have fun kind of just figuring out how to, as quickly and as easily as possible, get the data you need from the sources you need, and that you're starting to build the workflow you need to build out your first project, or maybe your second or your third or your 5th project. So let me know what you're working on. Let me know how your PDF parsing goes. And if you have any experience with any libraries that you really want to recommend, please do so in the comments. And I'll see you next time.